Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to talk about the movies. My name is Skye. Welcome to the Movie Proposal, episode 29. Josh Lindsay's with me as always.
Hello, everybody.
And Jason Rugg.
Hey there.
Who doesn't have his computer, so he's going to be fact-checking us on an iPhone.
Really slow.
Really slow. So let's throw out a lot of bad facts just to test his acuity with his thumbs. And we have a guest with us today. A great guest with a great podcast. Josh, you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, this is our friend John Butrin. He is the founder of the website Cinema Faith, which features movie reviews and commentary on movies through a Christian lens. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show. And maybe if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Cinema Faith, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be with you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. Well, basically, the long and short of it is that I have loved movies my whole life, and it was just me and my mom growing up, and it was our favorite pastime together. And I've also loved Jesus most of my life, and I've always been looking for a way to combine those two things. And so, but I wanted to do it in a way that was a little different than the way other Christian movie websites did it growing up, where there was a big focus on surface content and kind of counting up swear words and sex scenes and judging movies based on that. I think you know what I'm talking about. You know, Schindler's List is a little violent, so we're going to downgrade it. It's like, it's about the Holocaust. So, yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. And I ended up meeting a guy in my church a couple years ago, and he's a web designer. Shout out to Mr. Dan Baker. And he helped me get things off the ground. So it's just a place where we look at film a little bit beyond the surface and try to find the truth that we see there. Because when I look at movies, I don't really see something dangerous or profane. I see something more like kind of modern day parables, like the kind that Jesus told, because story is powerful and movies are one of the most powerful mediums we have. So it's just a place where we have movie reviews, commentary, and articles, and we really want it to be a community. So anyone's welcome, and we'd love for anyone out there to join in our discussion. So cinemafaith.com, and it's great to be here today.
We were talking before we started how your podcast is kind of the inverse of ours, in that you take a movie and go super deep into that one film and pull it apart and parse it and look at it really carefully, and we just skim across the surface by briefly looking at multiple movies in one episode. So if you want, a full balanced diet of Christian cinema exploration, you really should take both of our podcasts together.
Absolutely.
And that would be a real balance, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And yours is probably really thoughtful, whereas ours occasionally hits on a good thought.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. I like your podcast.
All right. Well, we're going to start, as we always do, with something old. This is when we bring back a movie from prior to the millennia that we think is worth reconsideration. We briefly share why. So let's let our guests go first. John, what have you brought?
Sure. I am bringing The Sixth Sense. I think I just made your cutoff. 2000, right? That's your year?
Yeah.
So 1999, great year for movies, by the way. You had Fight Club, The Matrix, Toy Story 2. Great year. Sixth Sense. Here's the reason. With Wonder, which we're going to be talking about later today, I found some parallels. First of all, you have two great child performances. Haley Joel Osment was out of this world in The Sixth Sense, nominated for an Oscar, which I think a lot of people forget because The Sixth Sense kind of like embedded itself so much in the culture, I see dead people type thing, that people actually forget how great of a movie it was. It was like nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture. Like, it's legitimately a great movie. But in regard to Wonder, what made me think about it is both star this kid who's just like carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Like in Wonder, you have this facial deformity, and everyone he meets is reticent to talk to him. But in The Sixth Sense, like this kid sees dead people, and that's scary. And then he's treated like a freak at school. And both of them have this really beautiful arc of breaking through with their peers. And I thought it was a nice parallel there. And of course, it's just a great movie to go rewatch. If it's been a while, I would really recommend rewatching it. And who can forget about the ending? Like, I still remember being in the theater when that ending broke. It was like the first twist ending before they copied it and, ran it through the ground. But that was like the first one. And I remember just us sitting there for like 10 minutes as an audience just processing it, and we were in awe. That one and The Matrix were the two best theater experiences I ever had, and they were both in 1999.
Wow.
So,
I remember that theater experience as well because it was completely ruined for me.
Oh no.
oh,
And so
no.
here's like one of my criteria for judging a movie, whether it was good or not, is at the end of it, if I sit down and think, not only could I have written that movie, but I probably could have done it better, then I'm annoyed, right? So, and I'm usually the one in the theater who I lean over to my wife and I'll say like, oh, you know, what's going to happen next is da-da-da. And she's like, would you stop doing it? But I kid you not, we're not even halfway through that movie, and she leans over to me and goes, Bruce Willis is dead. I'm like, what? And she hadn't seen it. She figured it out. She's just like, oh yeah, he's dead. I'm like, no.
She put it together.
And then like the whole movie, I'm going, is he? Is he not? So then it hits. I'm like, dang. You know, why couldn't you have? Why can't we be in Las Vegas? And you say it's gonna land on black, and we, you know. But anyway, it is a good movie. But the thing that's a little frustrating to me about Sixth Sense is I agree with everything you said, John. Why then did M. Night Shyamalan never hit it out of the park quite the same way again? It seems like he tried to do kind of these sci-fi twist at the end movies, and I've never felt any of them worked as well as The Sixth Sense.
No. Unbreakable, and then the Mel Gibson one.
Signs?
Signs.
They're both okay.
Oh,
I did
so
not
good.
think.
Yeah, Unbreakable. Signs.
I think they were as good
I
as
would
The
agree.
Sixth Sense.
Unbreakable is great. Signs is where he started showing cracks in
Right.
the scenes. Yeah.
All right, Josh.
I picked What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Wow.
Johnny Depp, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio was just a kid in that.
And he was nominated for an Oscar.
Well, I'm going to be the odd man out here.
I didn't know that.
Going to when I get my suggestion.
Okay, well,
This is before Titanic, right? Just to
Oh
clarify.
yeah, way before. What year was that?
93. Leonardo DiCaprio is a great actor, and he gets a bad rap because of Titanic and then I think a couple other things.
No, I agree though. He's very good.
He's very good. But this is a movie that I watched over and over, and it came to mind once again because of Wonder, where Leonardo DiCaprio is mentally challenged, and then his brother Johnny Depp is taking care of him. Their mother is physically challenged, and so he's just dealing with these struggles in this small town. Juliette Lewis comes to town, and they become friends and try and figure these things out.
Okay, I saw that movie, but for the life of me, I can't actually recall what it's about.
See, okay, there are a handful of movies that are just like that where I've seen What's Eating Gilbert Grape probably 5 to 10 times.
Really?
And every time I watch it again because I can't always quite remember what happened in the film, but I knew I really liked it. And then I watch it again, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a great movie.
It's like going to a Japanese restaurant.
You forget how...
I know I ate something, but I'm still hungry.
All right. Anyway, check it out. It's a good one. 93.
Okay, wait. What was Eating Gilbert Grape? And who was Gilbert Grape?
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp was Gilbert Grape.
He was struggling because he's in this dead-end town. He didn't know what to do with his life. His mother was very overweight, and so the town people were making fun of her, and she just had a hard time getting around. The son, Leonardo DiCaprio, was getting into trouble, and so everything fell on Gilbert Grape, but he's basically a kid, teenager.
And years later, the Kraken ate him. That's what was Eating Gilbert Grape, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Johnny
of the
Depp.
Caribbean 2.
Pirates of the Caribbean
Pirates.
2.
Oh, I didn't see that one. All right.
Oh, whatever. Okay, so my something old is just we came out of the Thanksgiving break, and in my view, during Thanksgiving break, at some point you have to watch a John Hughes movie. That's just like a law in our family.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles comes to mind.
That's the one we always do.
Yeah.
But this year we want to do something different, so we watched Uncle Buck.
Ah, okay.
Also John Hughes, also John Candy. And I was thinking about what is it about Uncle Buck that works so well? And there's multiple things, but I think at its center, it's basically a retelling of the Mary Poppins story. I'm
John
serious.
Candy being Mary Poppins.
No, but I mean the formula. There's a lot of movies that follow the Mary Poppins formula, which is there's a dysfunctional family with kids who are out of control, and an unexpected parental figure comes into the home who brings both levity but also depth to the thing. And that's Uncle Buck is kind of the Mary Poppins of suburban Chicago. That's the role he plays.
Okay.
And that the kids love him, and there's this he brings at the end of the story the family's kind of back together, and it's this heartwarming, wonderful thing. But it's John Candy, and who doesn't love John Candy?
What year did it come out?
'89.
Wow. Okay.
He's Mary Poppins, y'all.
He is Mary Poppins, and Macaulay Culkin is in it. This is before Home Alone.
This is before Home Alone.
Before Home Alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the little kid in it.
All right.
There's a wayward teenage daughter who, that's kind of the heart of the story, is how Uncle Buck kind of intervenes in her life because she's going off the rails and she hates him for it, but at the end realizes she was wrong, and her uncle and her parents are actually there to help her.
Is this one of those, like, it's PG and you sit with your kids and then it's really not PG?
There's one scene with a washing machine. Yeah.
All right, I haven't seen this in a long
So,
time.
I watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with my well, he's 10, but like I knew that like that whole movie is actually really just PG and all right. But then there's that one scene. So as long as you fast forward the scene where he flips out and says the F word 20 times in the airport,
right, with the rental car.
Not that dirty.
I just watched a commentary on Planes, Trains, and Automobile, and they said Steve Martin picked that film because of that scene.
Yeah.
No way.
In Uncle Buck, the one offensive off-color scene is Uncle Buck is alone at home during the day while the kids are at school, and he cannot figure out how to get the washing machine to work, and so he's just pounding this washing machine, and the neighbor comes in and hears what's going on and the way he's talking to the washing machine and assumes there's a moment happening in the laundry room between him and someone else. So it's incredibly funny and really awkward when you're sitting there with your children.
Yeah.
But still a good movie. Okay, on to the bulk of our episode, something new. This is where we talk about a recent release movie, and this week we're talking about Wonder, based on a book. And Josh, you usually give us the rundown on the official synopsis.
Okay, so yes, this is based on the New York Times bestseller Wonder. Tells the incredibly inspiring and heartwarming story of August Pullman, a boy with facial differences who enters 5th grade.
Facial differences. That's how they put it?
That's how they put it. That's right off of IMDb.
Jim Carrey has facial differences. But
anyway, he attends mainstream elementary school for the first time after being homeschooled. So.
I mean, that's an incredibly anemic description of the movie.
Well, there was one that was like 3 times as long.
Right.
But
so that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Now we got to give our proposals.
Yes.
So again, John, can we start with you?
Okay. My proposal is that Wonder is not the movie we want, but it is the movie we need. So I'll be totally honest with you guys. I was not super psyched about seeing this movie when I read the synopsis because I was just freaked out that it was going to be overly cheesy and melodramatic. But I'm glad I saw it. I mean, and I think a lot of people might share my fear. I mean, we're like in the age of the superhero, right? Like people want action, comedy, fast-paced movies, and even in the for film buffs like us, we're in the Oscar season. We want like the movies that are guaranteed to win awards right now. But I do think, even though it might not be the movie we want, it's the movie we need. And the reason is that we are so polarized as a country right now. I don't think I have to inform anyone of that. Like, I've only been alive for 30 odd years, so I don't have a lot to compare it to, but I can't remember a time where we are so siloed individually. And I think social media has a lot to do with that, where we're able to basically create bubbles where we're around people that think like us and talk like us. And that, I think, has made it so much easier to make an enemy of the other, people who are different than us. And so I thought the message of this film was so powerful and so needed today. And I loved how so you have Augie, who's basically, since we haven't really dived in depth, I'll be the first one to basically, Augie is this kid who has a severe facial deformity, and people judge him right away when they see him. Basically, the kids instantly conclude that they don't want to be his friend. And it's really tough for him to follow. And I think that you could make a case that that's how we are as a society today, right? I mean, like, we can't have political conversations because all you need to know is whether someone's a conservative or liberal, and you've completely made up your mind about them. And so I loved that the Augie's journey, and I also liked how they they follow other characters in the film. So like we kind of are predisposed to be sympathetic toward Augie because the movie's about him, but we also like form a little bit of a judgment about some of the other characters, right? Like Via's friend, who this girl comes home from college and she totally disowns her best friend, and we're basically, I think all of us are like, hey, that's really mean, you're a terrible person. And then the movie follows Via's friend, And suddenly we're able to see, hey, there's actually an absent father in the picture. There's a distant mother, and like suddenly we have sympathy for this character that we immediately judged. And I think that's the real power of the film, and that's what we need today. Because if we could follow, all of the people that like maybe on Facebook that post that same stuff, and we could actually learn more about their life, I think that we would have a different perspective about them. And especially as Christians, I think that's why we have to refrain from like summary judgments of people, right? We have to be able to discern this action's right and wrong, but this whole category judgment of a person's life, only God can judge that. And I think one of the great quotes that I took away from the movie that I wrote down because I thought it was so great is, if you have the choice between being right or being kind, be kind. What if we lived like that? It's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree with you. One of my favorite things about the movie, besides the lead character Augie and his story, was the fact that they followed other characters like the sister and the best friend and things like that. That was unexpected. I had not read the book, and so that was my second favorite part of the movie.
So what's your proposal, Josh?
Okay, mine's simple. First of all, I just want to say, when I saw this movie, it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We saw it at 10 a.m., and I thought, who goes see these movies at 10 a.m. in the morning? So we're out of town, and the movie was almost sold out. So we had to sit in the very front row.
Wow.
I've seen 3 movies in a theater sitting in the front row, and this is the third one. And it's awful, right? But it's such a great movie, we forgot that we were sitting in the front row. And my proposal was, I propose that Wonder is the feel-good movie of 2017. I'm not an easy crier, and I got choked up and teary-eyed multiple times in this movie.
You're guilty.
Oh my gosh! I'm just looking at my kids, just like wiping. Like, jeez. But multiple times, and I was surprised because they could have messed this film up. They could have just thrown Julia Roberts, Owen Wilson. I didn't read the book. I didn't know the story, and I was surprised that it got decent reviews. And I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And I do want to add one more thing while I'm speaking on this. Have you read the book?
No, but all my kids had.
Yeah, John, have you read the book? No, I guess not.
I have not read the book, no.
Anytime this comes up to someone who has read the book, it's like, get ready for shaming. My goodness, like the number of times, like, what, you've not read this book?
Yeah.
And apparently the book is very good, so it's on my to-do list to read, but especially now after seeing the movie.
Okay, I totally agree with everything you guys have said. I was not particularly happy about going to see this movie because my kids had read the book and my wife was kind of the one saying, we need to go see a movie as a family. This is perfect. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll kind of take one for the team. Because this is going to sound horrible. You got to hear me out.
Okay.
I knew the basic story and I thought what I was in for was what some people have dubbed disability porn.
That's a new one for me.
That's a new one for you. So there was a TED Talk given by a woman years ago, I think in Australia, who's have some severe handicap. She's in a wheelchair, and she talked about this phenomenon where people love to hear stories or see videos online of people with severe disabilities who overcome them as a way of making their lives feel less, or their challenges being less difficult to overcome.
Oh, if they can do it, then I can do it.
Right, if they can do it, I can do it. Right. So I assumed this was going to be a story about a little boy who had significant challenges, who rose above it, and we're all supposed to go away feeling better about ourselves. And if he can do it, I can do it. That's what I assumed I was in for.
And she coined the phrase disability porn?
She compared it to that. Oh, yeah, wow. It was kind of weird. But I thought that's what I was in for. Okay. Not at all what the story was.
No.
And I came away also choked up at multiple times, but I tweeted out, I think this is the most Christian movie of 2017, number one. But here's my actual proposal. I propose that Wonder is the primer on basic human empathy that our culture needs right now.
Yes.
And so it kind of goes along with what you were saying, John, but here's why. What really got me about the movie, and the reason why I think it's so brilliant, and I understand this is also how the book is written, is it's not just about Augie and the boy who's got the facial deformity who has to overcome those challenges, which he does admirably. But what's brilliant about the storytelling is then it looks at it from the point of view of his sister, his older sister, and you begin to realize how much she carries as the daughter in the family without the physical disability, and how the whole world orbits around Augie and his needs, and she's left to the periphery, and you begin to empathize with the struggles that she has. And then you see it from the point of view of Augie's friend who's trying to do the right thing but makes mistakes, and you begin to empathize with him. There's even a point to which you empathize with the bully in the story because his parents are complete morons.
Right.
And so what it does, I remember I had the echo of a professor of mine in seminary who used to say, make no judgments where there is no compassion. It's very easy to jump into the mode of judging what someone's doing or saying or why they're doing it, and you've never walked a mile in their shoes and understood their circumstances. And in no way is this trying to diminish right and wrong or good and evil. But what our culture does lack right now is the ability to place ourselves in another person's shoes and see things from their point of view and try to understand their perspective. As John brought up, we don't do that politically, we don't do that culturally, it's just, we're right, you're wrong. And unfortunately, social media, the smartphones, there's been a lot of research on this, is actually making people less and less empathetic. We're becoming siloed into echo chambers where we only listen to the opinions we already agree with. We never really have to be stretched to think from a different point of view. Snapchat and texting and all these kinds of instant communication forms diminish people's empathy because you're not actually hearing a human voice. You don't have to actually engage with somebody face to face. There's a lot of studies showing that young adults today lack empathy, which is terrifying when you consider the direction our culture is going overall. Right. So all those reasons, I came out of this movie going, wow, this movie, it's not the deepest, most profound thing in the world, but it's a basic lesson, and this is how you empathize with somebody. And every person should be required to watch this movie.
I agree.
I mean, it's not, it used to be taken for granted that this is what you enculturated in a community or in a family or in a church. It was about listening, understanding, seeking to see things from another's point of view. And we've just lost the value of that as a culture. And this movie shows why it's so needed.
Well, yeah. And I one of the things I like about these types of films is, one, it was good. So you enjoyed. I walked out of there, having shed some tears, laughed, and just felt uplifted and then motivated to want to be like. I think the tagline was, or the hashtag is "Choose Kind."
Right.
And I saw that advertised, and so it was neat to see it spelled out in the movie and so forth. But it's also great, just getting back to the book, because my kids also read it, and that they love the book. Like anyone who reads this book loves it, and so I really hope they do make this available more in schools, but also the movie, because it was so enjoyable.
And at the end of the movie, there's a kind of a graduation scene. I love Mandy Patinkin as the principal. He was probably my favorite person in the whole movie. I love him.
I want to be like him. Yeah.
But he quotes, he didn't reference who said it, but the quote was from Philo of Alexandria, who's actually an early church father. And he said, "Be kind, because every person you meet is fighting a great battle."
Who said that?
Philo of Alexandria.
Okay.
And it caught my attention right away because some of the audience may know, I write a daily devotional that I've done for like 4 years now. The very first devotional I ever wrote was on that saying.
Really?
Of Philo of Alexandria. And that's kind of the theme of the whole movie, is be kind, because everybody has a battle. Everyone has a problem. Everyone has a struggle that they're dealing with. We just don't often see it. With Augie, it was obvious because it's literally on his face, right? His deformity. Right. But every other person also had their battle, their struggle. It was just invisible, and you had to work to understand it from their point of view. And so it's a wonderful Christian message that we need in our pluralistic society.
Agreed. Do you want to transition to something borrowed?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I found this article on USA Today. We kind of talk about how unprepared we are. What happened?
There it goes. Our camera wasn't switching.
Oh, okay. Which, by the way, if you're listening, you're not watching, we have how many cameras do we have today?
4 cameras.
4 cameras today, thanks to Jason Rugg, so thank you for that.
So if you watch us on YouTube, you can get us from every angle.
It's great.
It's just like the Matrix with the magic bullet.
But anyway, there's this USA Today article, and I was saying how we're usually not prepared, and I sent the article to everyone, but I don't have it in front of me. I think, John, you read the article, right?
I did, yes.
Fantastic. Maybe you could, what did you take away from this article?
All right. I'll do my best. The article is basically saying there was a writer who was saying that she read the book, she loved the book, and her big thing that she pointed out, which is pretty fascinating, was that the big difference between the book and the movie was that the book does not spell out what Augie's face actually looked like what the details of the deformity. And you have to kind of make that in your mind. You have to create that. And it does give some details eventually, like 3/4 the way through. But she was saying even after reading the whole book, you're still basically like you're not sure. And that actually lends to the power of the narrative. And the big difference between that and the movie is that within the first 3 minutes, we know exactly what Augie looks like. And so that's what she was kind of drawing a comparison between the movie and the book, and she thought the book was much more powerful because of that. So do you want me to give my take on the article, or do you want to go ahead?
You couldn't really avoid that though in a film.
Well, exactly.
Right.
That's the difference.
It's a medium that makes...
Well, and also in addition to that, like a book can just go so much further into people's lives and history and backstory and all those things that a movie can only do within 2 hours. So the book is almost always better.
If it comes first, yeah.
Right. Yeah. If the movie is based on a book, people always say the book is better, But no, I
don't even like the term better. Yeah, I would almost say they're just different, right? Like, I feel like we should just be able to be comfortable with both genres being their own thing. Like, the reason why the first 2 Harry Potter movies were so terrible was because Christopher Columbus was just hell-bent on filming the book, and it felt so overstuffed. And then when you got The Prisoner of Azkaban, Alfonso Cuarón finally felt the freedom to just let it soar. And so, yeah, just let it be its own thing. Yeah,
that's a good observation. See, I always think of Jurassic Park because I read that book in a day. I love that book.
Yeah.
And I love the movie. But they actually change. There are people who live in the movie that die in the book and vice versa.
Right. And there's really big set piece scenes in the book that are nowhere in the movie. Right.
Because you're limited, that sort of thing. But here's what I thought we would do. I thought we'd do something kind of fun today on this theme of movies and books. And I'm going to mention some books and see if you guys can guess what movie they turned that book into. Oh,
because the titles aren't the same.
Right. Well, the first one is, but
can I guess at that one?
Can I go first?
Maybe you didn't know this. All right. The first one's Fletch.
Fletch was a book?
Really? Fletch was a book. Yeah, and it's a series.
Weird.
Yes. Huh. So I guess it's a comedy, crime, drama type series.
Okay.
So they turned that into me. Okay. All right. That was an easy one. All right. Let me get to some that are, they're going to get harder as we go along. All right. So next one, not kind of easy. Who censored Roger Rabbit?
Who censored Roger Rabbit became Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yep.
Well, obviously.
There you go. Okay. Next one. John, do you know this one? The Body.
All right.
Oh, yeah. I know this one.
I don't know that one. No. Go ahead.
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me.
Ah, there you go.
That makes total sense.
Yes. All right. This is one of my favorites. Shoeless Joe.
I know this one.
Field of Dreams.
Very good. Yeah. Field of Dreams. Okay. I will be amazed if anyone gets this one. Lottie and Lisa.
Lottie and Lisa.
Yeah.
Benny and June.
So girls, twins. The Parent Trap.
Oh. Weird.
Okay, I got two
Parent
more.
Trap's a better title.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Blade Runner.
Very good. Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was that a short story, I assume?
No, I think it was a full novel.
Philip K. Dick. Yep.
All right. Jason, let's see if you can get this one.
No.
Nothing Lasts Forever.
Is that going to be Die Hard or something?
It is Die Hard.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea that was based on a book.
Huh. There you go.
There you
Well
go.
done.
Now you can read the book and watch the movie, Jason.
At the same time.
So John, Jason has not seen the movie Die Hard. And
I'm sorry.
If
Oh,
anyone
geez.
wants to make one of my books
I
into
think
a movie,
it's
I'm
like
open to
it's my
changing the
first
title.
Christmas movie usually of the season.
Yes, it's
to
a
be
great Christmas
controversial.
movie. What were you saying?
I say if anybody wants to change one of my books' titles to make a movie, I'm very open to that.
Yes. All right. All right. Well, that's all I got for something borrowed. So we can move on to something blue here.
Something blue. Something that blew our minds or that blew chunks that we saw recently.
John, you want to go?
All right. I'm going to go with something blew up my top 10 list, and that is Lady Bird. Have you guys seen it?
Not yet.
No, I heard about it.
shot right up to #1 best movie I've seen this year. It is playing everywhere. You guys have to see
Lady
it.
Bird.
So Greta Gerwig is she's an actress I think a lot of people have seen before, but maybe don't know. She's not a household name. Her last movie was in Jackie last year with Natalie Portman. She was Jackie, Natalie Portman's assistant in the movie. Anyway, this is her first writing and directing gig, and she's just incredible. Like, the movie is out of this world. She strikes this really awesome balance between comedy and drama. Like, there are scenes that are laugh out loud funny, and then 2 minutes later you're tearing up.
This is not about
that's
Lady
really
Bird
hard to pull
Johnson,
off.
right?
No.
Okay.
What's that?
This is not about Lady Bird Johnson.
No, everyone asks me that when I tell them.
Well, because when you say
not about Lady Bird
that's
Johnson,
what everyone.
It is no. Lady Bird it's a precocious 17-year-old who basically has dubbed herself Lady Bird. That's the name she's given herself. And so the movie's basically it stars Saoirse Ronan, who was in Brooklyn a couple years ago, and she's this high school senior, and she is like, basically her eyes are out in the world. She wants to go to an Ivy League school and see the world and ditch her parents. And her mom, who's Laurie Metcalf, she is like paycheck to paycheck working class mom who's like, you can't pay for that and everything. So that their relationship is the backbone of the movie, and it's just funny and sad and powerful all at once, and great performances. I think that Saoirse Ronan, Laurie Metcalf, they're going to be shoo-ins for nominations, and I think it's going to be a big picture threat. So see Lady Bird; it's everywhere right now. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
great.
It's the highest on Rotten Tomatoes this year.
Yeah, there's never been a movie actually that has stayed at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after all the reviews were counted, and so it broke.
Oh, so this is the
record.
highest ever.
Yeah, the highest ever. Yeah.
Wow.
That's saying something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mine's something blue. This blew my mind. It's not a movie, but it could be. We were driving to St. Louis for Thanksgiving. My wife Angie found a podcast for the kids to listen to. I decided, I'll listen to the first one, and it's called "The Unexplainable Disappearance of Mars Patel."
Patel.
Patel, yes.
Patel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I they're like 15, 20 minutes a piece. And I listened to the first one, and I was going to stop. And then a cliffhanger. I'm like, all right, I'll listen to the next one. And I was hooked. We listened to the whole season 1. There's a season 2. It's a story.
And it's kid friendly.
It's kid friendly.
Not like 1980s John Hughes kids friendly.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, so my youngest is 8, and she enjoyed it. We all loved it. It's cliffhanger, the sound, the voiceover actors. They sound like they were kids. I'm sure some of them were adults.
So it's dramatized.
It's dramatized. It's a story.
Okay.
And it is fantastic. And here's the other thing. It takes place like these kids, these brilliant kids. It's kind of like it's X-Men-ish a little bit, but there's this school for like gifted kids. And throughout the podcast, it breaks for commercial like a normal podcast, would.
One that makes revenue.
would do. But when they break for commercial, it promotes this university. And they talk about how this university for kids is, only certain kids can get into it, and you have to take a test to get into it, and most kids won't get in. Are you up for the challenge? And by the end, I'm like, I'm getting online. I'm going to see if I can get on this. I didn't even know if it was a real school or not, but I wanted to take this test. Like, it's so.
So what did you find it?
I found it. Yeah, that's all I'll say. You should go check it out. But it's
okay. The unlikely disappearance of
the unexplainable disappearance of Mars Patel.
Mars Patel.
Yeah.
Indian.
Yeah.
Mars.
Yeah, Mars is short for something. I don't know what it is. Are we stuck on my
camera? There it goes.
There we go.
Camera's frozen again. Cool. All right. So I got something blue also. I mean, that blew my mind. I just stumbled on this little documentary on Netflix with Jim Carrey called Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond. Have you seen this?
I saw it. It was great.
You saw it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those who don't know, back in the late 90s, Jim Carrey did a movie called Man on the Moon, which was kind of the true story of Andy Kaufman, this very unusual, unorthodox comic. He was Latka on the show Taxi. He was on Saturday Night Live from time to time. Just did a lot of weird stuff, and he died tragically young of cancer. And so Jim Carrey played Andy Kaufman in this film. Well, the documentary Jim and Andy is about the filming of that movie back in the 90s. What I didn't know at the time, because I remember seeing that movie, was during the whole filming of the movie, Jim stayed in character as Andy Kaufman when the cameras were rolling and when they weren't. And adding another layer of weirdness is Andy Kaufman had this alter ego character that he would play named Tony Clifton.
Right.
And so Jim Carrey also. So now we're like three deep in your, like, it's bizarre. It was so weird, but it was just remarkable. It was a stunning, weird depiction. And then they're interviewing Jim Carrey in present day, reflecting back 20 years ago on the experience. And he had some really kind of profound things to say.
He did.
And some really insightful things. I just came away like marveling at the craft of acting and marveling at the craziness that the whole team had to put up with Jim Carrey when they were making this movie. It was really weird. It was really fascinating, but it blew my mind on those levels, like how they did this.
Right.
And it became apparent that the film itself, Man on the Moon, was probably not nearly as interesting as the making of the movie. Man on the Moon.
Have either one of you seen Man on the Moon?
I've seen it.
I did a long time ago. Yeah.
I missed it.
Carrey
I
was
want to see
for
it
an
now.
Oscar. I
after
don't know
seeing
if
the
he
documentary.
won, but yeah, good.
One thing I had when they made The Grinch with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
He had to audition for the Seuss. I don't know if they call him Seuss, no, the Seuss family, the foundation. Mm-hmm. But he was in the middle of filming Man on the Moon. And so he went in as Andy Kaufman, meeting the Seuss Foundation, like the Dr. Seuss Foundation, being Andy Kaufman. So they had to deal with, they thought they were getting Jim Carrey to audition for The Grinch, but it was Jim Carrey being Andy Kaufman auditioning for The Grinch.
Again, mind-blowing.
Right.
I'll tell you, the one part of the documentary I found really creepy, though, was the real Andy Kaufman had an illegitimate child many years ago, and this child was now an adult and had never met her father.
Right.
So she came to meet Jim Carrey on the set as her father, and they spent like hours. That was kind of messed up. That was kind of weird. But
you would think you'd say, all right, time out. I'm not your dad.
It was some kind of role-playing therapy stuff going on there, which is, I don't know, that was a little bit freaky.
Method actors are so fascinating. Daniel Day-Lewis is another one.
That's who I was thinking of too.
There's all these crazy stories of him like on stage, and he's so into the character. There was one time where he recollected his something personal traumas past, and he started screaming and ran off the stage in the middle of the performance and didn't come back. That guy gets into it.
I remember an interview, one of his co-stars, this is Daniel Day-Lewis, one of his co-stars asked him, why do you stay in character for the whole filming of a movie or whatever, and completely absorb yourself in it? Like, why do you do that? And Daniel Day-Lewis had the best response. He said, I'm not a good enough actor to do it any other way.
Oh.
I was like, wow. That was rough. What were you going to say, Jason?
I have a really quick blew my mind.
Okay.
That is Pixar's Coco.
I've heard that.
I'm not a fan of Pixar recently.
Yeah. Cars
3 was an atrocity. And many of the movies before that were just terrible. And Coco blew my mind.
Yeah, everyone is saying that's amazing.
Fantastic. I'm again not really a crier. It was like tears in my eyes.
Wow.
All I could think of was like, that's my family. That's me. That's, you put yourself into it so much. And it's just an incredible, incredible story, and really, really culturally opening up between, it's the best selling movie in Mexico ever, I think, at this point. It's an incredible story, and you should definitely see it.
I actually want to. I really do. Before we leave this segment, there's a Blue Chunks thing that we can universally say. None of us have seen the movie, except maybe you, Jason.
Yeah. Jason saw it.
Justice League Blue Chunks. Like, it's the worldwide consensus. Everyone, it was a barfarama. Everybody who saw the movie immediately vomited. It's bad. We're just going to pretend as if we live in a world in which that film was never made and does not exist.
I'm going to go see it.
So
I know it's
we'll
going to
bring
be
a
bad.
bag.
it's better than Batman vs. Superman, but that's like saying it's better than Dirt. So it's barely better.
I'm just curious. It's like, what?
The story is
I wanna
just
know
like,
why.
I don't understand the story. I don't understand. It feels like it's going 15 different directions, and then none of them get there. And so you're just left going, oh. There was one point where I giggled, and that was it. And there were about 1,000 jokes in there made by Flash, and none of them landed.
That's not good.
It was
That's not
terrible.
good. All right, guys. So we've reached the end of the episode. John, thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Like we said earlier, go check out his podcast where you can go in greater depth. And what's the next movie you guys are doing on your show?
That's a big debate. So I think we owe it to our viewers to do Star Wars: The Last Jedi, but my partner really wants to just do like an Oscar show where there's so many movies coming out in December, So,
right.
So we'll see what happens, but maybe it'll be a combination of both.
Well, what's
the last one we did was Lady Bird. So we went really in depth into that. If you do finally see it, you can check out the podcast. So cinemafaith.com. Yeah, check it out.
And obviously you recommend that people see the films before they listen to your episodes because you're going to
It helps. Yeah, we try to be as spoiler free as possible, but we've screwed that up before. But it does help because we really go into the weeds on all of it. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, anything you want to plug before we go?
Well, just, once again, we're part of Phil Vischer's podcast, and he's got this, that's basically why we don't have advertisers, that kind of stuff, so we stay alive because of him. So what's his devotion for kids? Where can they go?
Faith Blocks.
Faith Blocks. It's faithblocks.com. We just actually launched a new one on Ephesians.
Awesome.
So there are 30 different videos up there that you can buy for, I think it's less than $50. You can get both of them.
So my 10-year-old and 8-year-old, we watched the first, set of the first one together, and they loved it. So
awesome.
Yeah, so go Faith Blocks, the devotion for kids.
Well, that's awfully nice of you to plug something for Phil. I'm going to plug something for myself. I don't know. So, like I said, I do a daily devotional. Throughout December, we're doing kind of a different kind of series. It's not a typical Advent series. I am every day writing a devotional about some Christian. I think almost all of them are dead. So a saint from the past who has influenced my faith in a significant way and kind of dropped some aspect of their life to guide us closer to Christ. That devotional is available to anyone who makes a donation of any amount to support my ministry, which you can do at skyjatani.com. It can be as little as $2. You can do a one-time donation or an ongoing monthly thing, and that's just my way of saying thank you to the people who support me by keeping that devotional going. The other thing is during Advent, you can also sign up to support my ministry by subscribing to Amazon Smile, which is a great program that Amazon has where you get all the same access to all of Amazon's products, and every time you shop, they automatically donate 0.5% of all of your purchases to the nonprofit of your choice. And because I work under a nonprofit ministry, you can designate mine. So you can also find out more information on how to do that on my website. It costs you nothing. It makes Amazon donate the money, which is kind of cool. And finally, just make sure to tell your friends about our podcast, the movie proposal, rate it on iTunes, give us your feedback. And
we're at 39 reviews. We can get over 50 by the end of the year. We can
totally.
Let's get over 50.
Let's get over 50. We don't even care if they're bad reviews. Just 50.
Well,
yeah, we do. No, but really, ultimately, what would be great is to create enough of an audience for this podcast that it is self-sustaining, and we don't have to rely on Phil's good graces to keep us going. So spread the word and give us your feedback. You can get me on my Facebook page, Josh, Twitter, wherever we are.
JQ
online.
Lindsay.
There you go. Okay. Until next time, you can kiss this podcast goodbye.
Take this quarter. Go downtown and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face. Good day to you, madam.